Let me first introduce myself. My name is Shankar Rao, and I'm one of the two warranted contracting officers present here today. John Harwell, to my right, is the other contracting officer that has joined us today. And we're both going to be present for the rest of this event if you have any questions. So this is the agenda for today. Some of you have seen it, some of you just coming in haven't. So right now we are at the presentation portion of the event this morning, and I'm going to be talking to you briefly, giving you an overview of the procurement process, and also talk briefly about what we call blanket purchase agreements, which may be a unique concept here in Uganda. And at 10 o'clock, if I get done sooner, we'll give you the chance to ask us questions. And I think the most interesting part of the agenda today begins at 10:30. What we've done is we've assembled a procurement team and all of the technical experts in the American Embassy to engage one-on-one with you and to learn about your business. And let me briefly explain how that part of the agenda will work. Next slide. Let me now begin by giving you an overview of the American Embassy in Uganda and share with you some data about the money we spent on procurement last fiscal year. The American Embassy in Kampala includes representation from these 7 different federal agencies: PEPFAR, USAID, CDC, the Department of State, the Department of Defense, Peace Corps, and the National Institutes of Health. All of these agencies work in collaboration with each other to further the U.S. mission in Uganda. What you need to know about these multiple agencies is that they sometimes have unique requirements. For example, the CDC and NIH may have need for medical services and equipment. The other thing you need to know is that these agencies are funded separately. Every agency manages its own budget and is responsible for paying its own bills. Of course, all of these agencies are a part of the U.S. federal government, and the U.S. federal government always pays its bills, so you need not worry about having your bills paid. Next slide. This slide shows the total amount of money that was spent by the U.S. mission in Uganda among all agencies for the procurement of goods and services here in Uganda and elsewhere. What you see on this slide is that there has been a significant increase in the value of goods and services that we are procuring for the embassy over the past few years, which is good news for all of you, right? Right? Thank you. Next slide. This slide shows the number of procurements we're making on an annual basis. Last year, in 2013, we had close to 3,000 procurements. Not all of these procurements are done locally, but a good number are, which is why we've invited you to this event today, to make sure that everyone in the local economy gets a fair chance to compete to provide the goods and services we need. Next slide. Let me now talk about the different procurement methods we use. We have 4 major methods that we use: formal contracts, purchase orders, blanket purchase agreements, and petty cash. The nature of the requirement dictates what method we use, as this slide explains. Formal contracts are put in place, for example, for construction projects. We use purchase orders for commercially available items. Blanket purchase agreement for low-cost recurring items that we need on a recurring basis. And petty cash for low-cost one-time purchases. I have a separate presentation of blanket purchase agreements and how we use that method to procure goods, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Next slide. So this slide explains the process we follow. Nothing here should be a surprise. It's what all of you are already probably used to doing. We begin first, of course, with identifying the needs from the requesting office, ensure that the necessary funding is in place so that you get paid your bills, prepare the solicitation based on the statement of work, publicize the solicitation, and we have different requirements for how long we need to publicize the solicitation depending on the value of the procurement. And then we award the contract, you execute the work, and finally get paid for the goods or services that you provide us. Let me discuss a few of these steps in more detail in the following slides. Next slide. In the solicitation and publicizing phase, what you need to know is that all of our solicitations are published on the embassy website, the same website that is listed on the front page of the flyer that was handed out to you. It is your responsibility to periodically check this website for new solicitations. For those RFPs that require site visits, we will make arrangements and publish the date, time, and location of the site visit. Site visits are critical and may result in modifications to the requirements. Of course, all changes to the original requirements are republished. And the other important point to note is that when you submit your bids, please always comply with the instructions in the solicitation. If you don't, we won't even look at it. Next slide. In the evaluation, award, and post-award phases, all properly submitted solicitations are evaluated by a technical evaluation panel. You will be meeting with some of our technical evaluation panel members later today, starting at 10:30, when we begin our vendor presentations part of this event, like I described earlier. Based on the results of the technical evaluation panel, the contracting officer then conducts the financial evaluation and awards the contract. The contracting officer's representative, who is nominated in the contract, works under the direction of the contracting officer and will be your principal contact and will track your performance, bring any issues of non-compliance with the terms of the contract to the contracting officer's attention, and if necessary, will take remedial action. At the completion of the work, or if it is a service contract, at periodic intervals as specified in the contract, you submit invoices which have been approved by the receiving agency for payment. Okay? That's a quick summary of how our process works. I think it's really simple and straightforward. Next slide. This slide is probably the most important one I'm going to share with you today. What you need to know as suppliers to the American Embassy is that only a warranted contracting officer is legally authorized to enter into purchase agreements on behalf of the US government. Okay? And like I told you, there are only 2 contracting officers that are present here today, and we handle the bulk of the work for this embassy, myself and John. So if somebody else walks up to you and says, you know, I've got this great new project for you to do at the American Embassy, and can you help me out and start work tomorrow morning? What will you do? There's only one right answer. Somebody help me out? No, thank you. Very good. You say, I'm happy to help you. Could I meet with your contracting officer? Or I need a contracting officer's written authorization in the form of a purchase order or a contract to commence the work. Okay? Unless, of course, you wish not to get paid for your work. Next slide. Here are some common examples of unauthorized commitments that we see more often than we'd like to. Unfortunately, when you, as vendors, are on the receiving side of such a situation, there is no guarantee that you will get paid, if at all. So always ensure that you have the complete and necessary purchase order or the contract in hand before you commence any work. And once you have commenced work, never make material changes that will add costs without the written consent of the contracting officer. Is that clear? Thank you. Next slide. Something else that you need to be aware of when doing business with the U.S. Embassy is that we maintain the highest standards of integrity and expect the same of everyone who does business with us. We have zero tolerance for any unethical behavior that violates established business practices and norms. Next slide. The penalty for failing to comply with applicable laws and engaging in any unethical behavior is very harsh. You could be blacklisted from doing business ever again with any U.S. government entity worldwide. In the event you become aware of behavior that is questionable, it is your duty to report it immediately to the contracting officer. Next slide.